Hi guys, let's continue the second part of the lecture. Do you manage to answer these questions? Let's discuss. Which drug is most potent as an analgesic drug? So to look at the potency of the drug, we must see the EC50 of the drug dose. So as you can see here, hydromorphone produce less dose to achieve the EC50 compared to the others. Means that hydromorphone is the most potent drug as an analgesic drug. So which drugs are efficacious? So these three drugs, hydromorphone, morphine, and codeine, are efficacious because they manage to achieve 100% of the response, as aspirin only managed to achieve 75%. So let's continue. The therapeutic index. So the therapeutic index is an indication of the safety of the drugs. As you can see in this picture here, the therapeutic index is the target range of the dose or concentration of the drug in the blood that we require to produce the pharmacological effects. If the concentration of the drug in the blood are too little, it will produce the suboptimal effect. But if too high, which is more than Emax in the drug response curve, it will produce toxicity to these patients. For every drug, there is dose response curve for effectiveness and also the dose response curve for toxicity. Another term that I want to highlight here is TD50, which is the drug dose that causes 50% toxicity in our body system. The larger the ratio of therapeutic index, the safer of the drug. So we move on to agonists and antagonists. Agonist is a drug that binds to the receptor and it will activate it. While antagonist is a drug that occupy to the receptors but do not activate them. Antagonists block the receptor activation by the agonist, so they compete each other at the same receptor. We can call it as a competitive antagonist. So the less activation will be produced. So the next part, we will focus on the agonist and antagonist. There are three types of agonists, which are full agonist, partial agonist, and inverse agonist. The partial agonist and inverse agonist, as well as the antagonist itself, acts on the same receptor system as the full agonist. The partial agonist cannot produce as large an effect, which means they has lower maximal efficacy compared to the full agonist. However, sometimes partial agonists may be potent, less potent, or equally potent as the full agonist. As you can see here, the potency are the dose that manage to achieve 50% of the response. So sometimes the partial agonist can be more potent compared to the full agonist. While inverse agonists exert the opposite pharmacological effects. Inverse agonists, also known as negative antagonists. Let's talk about antagonists. There are three types of antagonists, which are reversible competitive antagonists, irreversible competitive antagonists, and non-competitive antagonists. Before I continue, I want to highlight here the A words here refer to agonists and the I refer to antagonists. Competitive antagonist has the same binding site with the agonist, whereas the non-competitive antagonist bind to the receptor at different sites from the agonist. As you can see here, The binding of the non-competitive antagonist may cause changes of the structure of the agonist binding site, lead to no binding activity of the agonist. The reversible competitive antagonists are displaceable, which will cause the dose response curve of the agonist shift to the right. It means that high concentration of the agonists are required to produce EC50 with the presence of reversible competitive antagonists. In contrast, the irreversible competitive antagonist, which is non-displaceable and non-competitive antagonist, cannot be overcome by increasing the concentration of agonists. Thus, you can see in the picture here a downward shift of the maximal effect, which will cause the agonists are less efficacy in the presence of these two types of antagonists. Before we end our lecture today, let's discuss about these questions. The figure shows the graded dose response curve of the drugs that acting at the same receptors. Which drugs is or are most potent? As we discussed earlier, to look out the potency of the drug, we must see the EC50 of the drug dose. As you can see on the chart here, the drug C has lower drug dose to achieve the EC50 compared to the others. So means that the drug C is the most potent drug. So the next question, which drug has or have high efficacy? To look at the efficacy of the drug, we must see the percentage of the maximal effects. As you can see in this chart, drug X and drug A are efficacious because they produce 100% of maximal effects. Which curve show the presence of non-competitive antagonists of drug X? So means that the drug X is agonist. In the presence of the non-competitive antagonist will cause the drug effect downward from the maximum effect. The B curve and the C curve, it shows the presence of the non-competitive antagonist of drug X. And the last question, which curve show the presence of reversible competitive antagonist of drug X? The presence of the reversible competitive antagonist will cause the shift to the right of the curve. So the curve A is the curve that presents of the reversible competitive antagonist. So that's all for today. Thank you everyone. Keep calm and stay safe. Assalamualaikum.